challenges are transient. What is not transient is your future. And unfortunately, it's your future alone. It can't be a collective future.
Greetings everyone, my name is Lanhlangwenya. I'm a mentor at EraAfrica. Welcome to yet another episode. Today we're bringing to you Mr. Dlamini. He's an entrepreneur. He's been an executive, is it? Is now an entrepreneur. We're focusing today on mental health. Mr. Dlamini, a lot is happening outside. We are seeing a rise of GBV cases. We're seeing a lot of people are going through mental health. Life itself, it is a journey, but there's a lot happening in life. Briefly, as you explained to us your understanding of mental health, please share who is Mr. Dlamini and then go on and explain your understanding of mental health.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be part of this EraAfrica. I'm glad to be here. As you've just mentioned, my name is Bongani. I'm Bongani Dlamini. I come from a different world, of course, a world of being in employment for a while. I took my time studying. I've done a lot of studying in my previous life. And then I started working as a teacher, but I've gone through different places. So I'm here now. I am an entrepreneur. I run business. I am finding it a different world. I'm finding it an entertaining world. I'm finding it a pleasing world, but I also know that it has tremendous challenges. So right now I'm in a space where I've had to grapple with a lot of things, including why did I leave work? You know, you get confronted with those kind of questions, especially so because we were raised to be employed.
Yeah.
When I was much younger, my parents would tell me I must pass at school so that I can be employed.
Yeah.
I must go to university so that I am employed.
Yeah.
So granted, the current challenge is where you finish university and you're not able to find a job. That's not easy.
Yeah.
Because people find it very difficult to think about alternatives. That's the one thing that I've come to notice with myself and with my children. I had to ask myself a lot of questions before I had to quit work. So my children are confronted with a similar situation where they are wondering whether they will be employed when they finish school or not. So that's where we are. So this can cause a lot of mental trauma because being anxious about any aspect of your life can be very challenging, whether it's a social aspect, whether it's an emotional aspect, whether it is a real issue like being confronted with death as we've experienced, being confronted with tragedy as we've experienced with COVID-19. So we are in that space where I think life has become very difficult, but we still try.
Yeah. We're living in I'll say, this whole life thing they say. It's challenging. Everywhere you go, there's challenges. Everywhere you go, there's challenges. Everywhere you go, there's challenges. But looking at, you've just said you were a teacher at some point, and you transited, climbed the corporate ladder, and then from there you had to take the entrepreneurship route of work, and you started to be a full-time entrepreneur. How are you managing? How are things going? What are the stresses at this level?
You know, I'm happy to say that my life has been one entertaining journey. When I started out as a teacher, I felt that I had something to contribute to help other people to be who they can be, the best selves. And then I moved on to being part of the larger tourism space where I had to market the country as a destination, which was quite exciting as well, you know, to be able to tell people to visit your country, to be able to tell people about the beauty, the endless beauty of your country. Was an amazing time in my life. And then when I decided to move on into the entrepreneurial space, I felt I had done all that I could do before then, And during the time that I was employed, during the time that I was teaching, I was being prepared for some of the challenges that I will face when I become an entrepreneur. You know, the small things like waking up, making up your bed, you know, you don't think those things matter, but they matter in the end, because you need to be up to speed with the little things that make a whole. So when I moved into the entrepreneurial space, I found that whereas there are different challenges, but some of them can be addressed with the experience you accumulated during your lifetime. Keeping time, organizing your mind about what you want to achieve, being purposeful, being focused, and being driven, you know, being driven by something larger than yourself, wanting to achieve something that you know is not easy. So all of those things are some of the things that have helped me to be where I am now. And I think it is important to say that it wasn't an easy transition, because when you can be employed and not be doing anything at work, but you still get paid. But once you move into the business world, if you don't work hard enough, nobody will pay you. And if nobody pays you, you will definitely go under. And that's a challenge to one's mental health. So it's those and many other things that affect your life and that affects your worldview, such that the transition doesn't have to be as slow as you would imagine. Something has to give. You must appreciate that I'm now operating in a different space, and I have my back against the wall. If I don't do this, nothing will put food on my table.
Interesting. So as an entrepreneur, faced with some challenges, how do you calm your mind down? Let's say something is not going right, finances are not coming in as expected. Let's say we're coming from an era of COVID where there was a disturbance, a very, very much big disturbance in economies. Then some money is not coming in. Wow. How do you calm your mind and manage expectation at home and yourself? What keeps your mind busy so that you don't get or you don't sink into, say, depression like we see some other entrepreneurs?
Well, the one thing that I can make mention of that I find to be very, very important in one's life is prayer.
Okay.
You know, I've been in a space where I've had to pray. I've been in a space where I found that I am fully employed just to keep myself alive. That was a full-time job. So when you pray about these kind of things, that God, when all else is gone, let me be, and please don't take away my joy. It becomes very important, because it makes you, it stabilizes you. And it's very difficult to do anything if you don't have a stable mind, if you don't have a stable outlook. So it's important that something bigger than yourself stabilizes you. Then you can begin to start thinking and looking for solutions about the things that you know you are dealing with. But what is also very important is self-conversation. What do you say to yourself? You know, there are times when you become desperate, and you can speak that desperation to yourself, and it doesn't help. I know I can't do this. I'm not able to achieve this. Somebody has taken this away from me. And if that becomes the only conversation that you have with yourself, you are definitely going to go under. So I became very, very careful about the kind of conversations that I have with myself, including believing that all the problems are transient. You know, it is there today, but it may not be there tomorrow. So where does it find me? Where does tomorrow find me? So these are the kind of conversations that sustained me, because I had to talk a lot to myself about, okay, now this is the reality. And I appreciated the reality. But I also had hope for tomorrow. I also had to develop some kind of thinking that tomorrow will be better than today. And of course it became better, because I knew that for the time being I had to develop solutions that are pertinent to the time. like I had to sell some of my stuff. So that taught me to detach. I had to start thinking, you know what, it doesn't help to have this and this and that and lose my life, you know, and it doesn't make me any smaller to be without that which I had yesterday. So as I went through all those phases, I became more stable, and that somehow sustained me. Then I moved from having conversations with myself to having conversations with my family, because I was at a space where I was now ready to talk to them. Guys, COVID-19 has done this. The things that I had hoped to achieve when I left work have become affected in this manner. But those things do not mean the end of the world. So if we can pull together, if we can assist each other to focus, this is what will happen. And then as they participated in those kind of conversations, things became better. And of course, we came together, we prayed together, and as things became better, then we started going back to church and there was corporate worship. It can be amazing how those things help you when you think everything seems to be lost. Just coming together with other brethren to say, Lord, what is it? And appreciating that you are not alone, and you are hopeful with you are a community of hopefuls, makes it better, because you end up thinking, all right, so if so and so is alive and I'm alive, then something good may come out of this. And that's what sustained me. And I think I'm in a better space than I was before COVID, because now I know that all these things that we have here, number one, they don't define us, but also someday we will leave them here. So our outlook to them should be such that they don't define us. And there are bigger things like trusting in God, being hopeful, being prayerful about today, and being thankful that you are alive.
I'm picking a lot of things. Our mentees at home, I hope you are enjoying this conversation with Mr. Dlamini, as he is sharing the nuggets of truth and how he manages to maneuver around. I'm picking that prayer is very important. Mr. Dlamini, what are your positive affirmations that keeps you going? That say maybe that you have every morning, if you have one, just your positive affirmations that keeps you going.
You know, it's difficult to say, because you respond to the challenges of the time. But one thing that really drives me is that I always remind myself that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It's one big affirmation
that you have.
Yes, that you know what, when all else is shaken, I can still do all things.
No, I see. Do you normally do roadworks every morning? Do you go to gym?
I tried until my knees buckled, and and then I decided, no, maybe I should do very little. We do walk from time to time. Okay. We are privileged to be living in the rural areas where a lot of pathways lead to nowhere. So we do take walks from time to time. But I don't run anymore.
Do you read books?
Well, I do. Actually, I read a lot. I should have said maybe that it's one of the things that I have done and done excellently.
Wow.
I just read a lot. I read a lot of things, and quite often I find that the things that I read matter to helping me be the person that I am now. So I don't just read anything. I'm past the time when I used to read novels, even though I know that novels talk to you in a certain way as well. But I do read.
You do read. Great. Most people at times, when they go through a phase of let's say they are mentally not stable, when they go through a phase of let's say they are depressed, they don't speak. I'm sure at work, while you're still working, you notice some others, maybe your colleagues, and maybe some other captains of industries, you're once an executive, they don't speak. As a Christian, what advice would you give them, and where can they go to seek help?
First of all, I'm very sympathetic to what you say, because I've experienced it myself. People, we look at each other and consider each other in certain ways. So when somebody thinks of me as this successful marketing manager, when somebody sees me as this successful businessman, it's very difficult to go back to that person and say, look, I'm just as weak as you are. So it is very difficult to communicate negativity about your life, especially when you think you are seen in a certain way, mostly a positive outlook. So I am very sympathetic to that situation, and granted the current economic strangulation, where you can wake up tomorrow and find that the things that made you feel good about yourself are no more there, or at least they are challenged. It gets very, very difficult. But I think, number one, it's very, very important just to know that there is a higher being. There is something much bigger than yourself that you can, just lay yourself bare to it. And in this case, God. If you have conversations, even if you don't really know what to say, but just saying, God, here I am finding things very difficult and I don't know what to do. I think it enables you to relax and start experiencing certain things in a different way, and it's very important. So I think it is important, number one, that you pray to God individually. And you bring other people, in this case your family, to pray with you, because when somebody appreciates that you are weak, he can't push you any further, because he who is down can't be pushed any further anyway. So once you have done that, then you reach out to your friends. In my case, people that I am with at church. I start having conversations with particular individuals who will understand and say something substantive about my situation, because it's no use going to someone who will actually make light of your situation, because it's never a light situation. So as soon as you start talking to these individuals and saying, you know what, I am struggling with A and B, but I need advice that will help me out of it. Because there is no point just having conversation for the sake of it, because it doesn't change your circumstance. But if I say to you, Mabuya, this is where I am challenged, what is it that I can do? Do you think there is space for intervention? Then I'm most likely going to get positive feedback, and that positive feedback will be integrated in the way that I think, and then things will begin to ease. Definitely things will begin to ease. So whether it is in business or maybe in academia, for those that are still at school, one should be able to say, what exactly do I need in this situation? I'm usually frustrated by people who pretend or accept that they just don't know what to do, because it becomes very difficult to intervene. How do you intervene in somebody's situation when he himself doesn't know whatever it is that he can do? So it starts with you, and I think it goes back to the things I mentioned earlier, the self-talk. What is it that you tell yourself? Do you start on a despondent journey where you just think, you know what, I'm going to die? Or you start with, I still think there is scope for a better world, and maybe I just need to find out what it is I can do.
As a parent, there are things currently happening around. It's a cry for help in young people. The situation we see, especially university students, and university students, young people, they are going through situations, some of which they can't even talk about, especially for university students. It's a cry for help. these young people are going through situations they can't even explain or talk about.
Sure.
You wake up the next morning, there is news. A student has hung himself. You wake up the next morning, a student has been killed. What is it according to your understanding and experience?
I think it would be important going forward that we talk to our students collectively and individually, and I think the burden is on the parent, the burden is on the teachers, the burden is on all those who interact with these young people. Number one, we should be able to say to them, there is a better tomorrow. There is a better tomorrow. People must appreciate that there is a better tomorrow. And then number two, it is important that we also make them appreciate that it's okay to talk. It's okay to talk. One of the things that I encourage with a lot of the people that I work with, both in my business and as a parent to my own children, is that no matter what I say to them, they should be able to respond. You know, we come from this culture where a parent is always right, and if your children respond to what you say, the more angrier you become. I think that's one thing that as parents we should gravitate away from. That, you know, why is he responding to me? Why is he talking back to me? I think that era should be gone forever. Children, students must be encouraged to say, no, I don't understand, and be listened to, and appreciate that they are being listened to. And we must also appreciate that as they grow, in fact, as parents, as teachers, we're in a better place to understand that these people go through stuff, because we went through stuff ourselves. You know, there is no reason why we should start expecting that these people are perfect and they should be perfect, because it is that perfection, it is that assumption of perfection that makes them despair. You know, because someone fails, and instead of us reaching out to him to say, you know what, failure is normal, actually it should be your springboard to success, we start saying, this person, why have you failed? Why this? Why that? Why that? And it destroys him, and it destroys his confidence. Yet we have also failed in so many endeavors. So I think the starting point here is an appreciation, truthful, realistic appreciation, that though the children are going through stuff that we went through ourselves, and nothing is new in this world. So once we get to that point, then we start saying to them, it is normal that you go through the things you go through, and it is normal to talk about them, you know. And the goodness of Swazi society is that we have relatives. So children must be encouraged that you don't have to depend on your father to say things to him. You can reach out to your aunt, you can reach out to your cousin, you can reach out to anybody who may be your relative, and you can reach out to your teacher, or even reach out to your pastor, so that people know that there is alternative help somewhere. I think that's very important. And then also, we must also encourage these young people to think beyond the now. They must think beyond the now and understand the finality of death. It is not a solution, because as soon as we have died, it's final. So once these people understand all these kind of things, I think we can create, along with them, a better world.
Along with them, a better world. You've talked about the alternatives young people can use instead of opting for cutting off their lives. The reality is, this generation of young people we have now is posting happy faces on social media, but deep down they are dying. And the end results, we see them in the media most of the time. They are happy outside, but inside they are depressed. What advice do you have for them? And lastly, for university students, and let's say for young people who are still in school at tertiary, what advice do you have for them on the importance of education and focusing on education for the betterment of their future?
Maybe one would have to start with advising young people that it's okay to be sad. You know, because the reason people want to be seen to be happy, it's because we have attached some kind of stigma to being sad. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry about your situation, and it's okay to reach out for help. I think everything should start there. You know, and then once you are in that space where you acknowledge the value of being who you are, and appreciate as well that you can be in the valley, but you can still achieve peace from broken pieces. It's important then to start graduating and appreciating your reality, your challenges at school, and why you are challenged. Because it's not a challenge for its own sake. It's a challenge for your own betterment in the future. I always hear people say that if you want to live like a king, you must work like a slave. I think that should be appreciated, because you can't, if you understand that I'm slaving so that I live like a king, you won't be frustrated with slaving. And it should also be emphasized that for the average person, education is the only avenue to changing your circumstances. So whatever it may be that is affecting you negatively, but don't sacrifice your education, because it's your future. And it's the only thing that can change your circumstances. So we need to emphasize that with young people, so that they don't look at education as an option. They must look at education as the only thing, because education is the only thing that cannot confine you to Eswatini. You can reach out to other places, you can reach out to other countries, you can function as an individual in spaces where you can't without education. So that should be emphasized, and we must encourage our young people to focus on their education and to reach out for help in the event they are challenged. But challenges are transient. Challenges are transient. What is not transient is your future. And unfortunately, it's your future alone. It can't be a collective future.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Dlamini. Thank you so much for such beautiful insights. We hope young people have learned something from this interaction. We hope one day an African child, Liswati or any other who is watching us now, will benefit from the conversation we had today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Dlamini, for honoring the invitation and sharing to our mentees, some of them who want to give up in life, some of them who are in the verge of giving up. We hope they will be helped.
It's definitely a privilege to have been invited here. I am very particular about the plight of young people.
Okay. Because
I was once a young person who was challenged as they are.
Okay.
I grew up in an environment that was just as difficult, you know, an environment where one parent was not there. And there are many others who grew up in circumstances much more difficult than mine. But at the end of the day, those guys pulled themselves up by their bootstraps just by focusing on what matters. So if you're a young person, you need to focus on what matters. And what matters until such time that you are self-liberated is your education.
Thank you so much for watching. This is EraAfrica. We are saying it's your time.